Hello there, my fellow myth and fantasy nerds. My name is Tanner, and I'd like to welcome you back to my YouTube channel. So, let's get this out of the way. No, this isn't my usual setup. At the time of filming this video, I am actually visiting my dad's girlfriend, and once again, she has graciously allowed me the use of her office to film while I'm here. I'm sure that by the time I release this video, I will be back in my usual studio, but at the moment, this is where I'm at. And Anne, if you're watching this, I'd like to thank you again for letting me borrow your office. Now that we've got all that out of the way, today's video is going to be a little bit different from my usual format. This is because, since y'all liked my D&D tag video so much, link up in the cards and in the description, I decided to sort of elaborate on one of the questions I answered back in that video. Specifically, the question, is there a character that you created but have not played yet? So for the next few videos, I will be making a series introducing you to the characters that I've created so far. Things like their personalities, their backstories, their stats, and just some fun trivia about each of them. This is actually inspired by a video that another one of my favorite YouTubers, Anna Brisbane, aka Brizzy Voices, did a couple years ago. I'll put her video up in the cards and in the description as well. Now, like her, I will be playing the parts of these characters, of course, but unlike her, I will not be cosplaying as these characters, though believe me, I would if I could. Now, I decided to break this series down by character race, or species if you prefer, starting with my Aasimar characters. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, Aasimars are basically humans with celestial ancestry, so they're basically descended from angels. So make sure you leave a like on this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe down below, since that always helps. And without further ado, allow me to introduce to you the first character in the first group of D&D characters that I've created. Oh, Westley! You called? Oh! Greetings and salutations, my friends! My name is Westley Lightningfeather, Aasimar Bard Extraordinaire. But please, call me Wes. All my friends do. Now, for those of you who do not know, we bards in this realm are spellcasters. We use our words, our music, and our other artistic talents to inspire our allies, undermine our enemies, ensnare the mind, weave illusions, and even heal wounds if the need arises. In short, we are masters of song, of speech, and the magic contained within them. Now, I bet you're all waiting to hear my backstory. And oh, what a tale it is! Allow me to paint a picture for you. A small village in the middle of nowhere, where two pillars of the community live. The town glassblower, known to make pieces that combine both beauty and function, and his wife, who would soon become the mother of his child. That child being me, of course. Now, most Aasimar, like myself, possess a mental link to a celestial being, usually a deva, who act as guides for us, though this guidance usually only appears in dreams. Now, the only Aasimar who do not possess this connection are those who have turned to evil, but enough about them. Anyway, my celestial guide was the one to reveal my Aasimar nature, as well as a prophecy that I was to overthrow the wicked tyrant who ruled over our village. Unfortunately, said tyrant somehow learned of this prophecy, and he sent his men to bring me to him, dead or alive, in order to keep that prophecy from coming to pass. However, some of our neighbors caught wind of this plan and warned mother and father ahead of time. Now, mother and father prepared some things for me, including but not limited to a musical instrument my father handcrafted for me. They told me I needed to disappear for a while, but when it was time for my destiny, they would be there to help me. Now, when the tyrant and his men found out I disappeared, he sent them to find me, and Lord knows what he did to my parents. I've been on the run ever since. Now, Tanner obviously has not played me just yet, and as such, I do not yet have a character level. But when he does play me, and to the correct level, his plan is on me becoming a College of Creation bard, which will allow me to specialize my bardic magic even further. What he did do, however, is roll my ability scores and all that ahead of time. So, as of this moment, my highest score is, of course, Charisma, since that's where I get my bardic magic from. When you factor in the score increase that I get from just being an Aasimar, my Charisma sits at a solid 19, which, incidentally, is just one away from the highest a score can ever go. On the other side of the coin, my worst score is my strength at 9. Considering 10 is the average in all ability scores, I guess that means I'm only slightly below average when it comes to strength. And of course, my character alignment is neutral good. I just want to do what I think is right, whether that means breaking the rules or enforcing them. You understand, don't you? Anywho, it was a pleasure to make your acquaintance, and now I shall pass it over to the next character. Take it away, Salomon.
Yeah, Wes? Hello. My name is Salomon Sacred Sword, and as with the other characters here in this here video, I am also an Aasimar. However, unlike Wes, I'm not a bard, but a warlock, which means that I get my magic from a pact with an otherworldly patron. But I'll get to that in a minute. I'll just need to tell you my story to give you some context. Now, my upbringing is very similar to Wes, except that my father was the town baker, known for making the most amazing baked goods far and wide. Everything else from the Celestial Guide to the Tyrant to the Prophecy, that pretty much all stayed the same. Eventually, once I left my little village, my celestial guide and I made a warlock pact. They would act as my celestial patron and give me the power to protect myself in exchange for me fulfilling my destiny when the time comes. Now, as a warlock, charisma is my strongest score, since that's where we get our magic from. As to why this is, I'm not sure. However, my charisma, after you factor in the whole score increase from being an Aasimar, is a 16. Whereas my worst score is again strength with 10. I guess you could say I'm fairly average when it comes to strength, but really, who needs it when you can cast spells? Am I right? Anyway, as mentioned before, my patron is a celestial, and when they made a pact with me, they gave me a pendant, which acts like an arcane focus, similar to a wand or a staff. Now, when Tanner plays me and gets me to the right level, our plans are on us having to go with the Pact of the Tome, where my patron will give me a book of shadows, which will contain three new cantrips, which are basically spells that we can cast at will, as opposed to having to expend energy in the form of spell slots to cast. Also, like Wesley, my character alignment is neutral good. Uh, oh, anyway, look over there. It's the nice character that Tanner wants you to meet. Hey Michael, come on over here. Yeah. Huh? Oh. Uh, hello. Didn't see you there. I'm Michael Firekeeper. I'm an Aasimar as well, but in my case, I'm a sorcerer. Now, what this basically means is that, unlike wizards who get their magic through years and years and years and years of intense study, or warlocks who get their magic through pacts with otherworldly beings, I was born with my magic due to some shenanigans back in my ancestry. You see, back in the old days, my parents used to be adventurers. My dad's an Aasimar bard, and my mom's a dragonborn monk. So basically, I'm an Aasimar like my dad, but because of my dragonborn heritage that I get from my mom, I'm specifically a draconic bloodline sorcerer, if that makes sense. Now, my parents obviously went on many adventures together, but they eventually got married, retired from adventuring, and settled down. My father became the town storyteller, and my mother founded a monastery to teach others who wanted to become monks. A few years later, I surprised them both. Now, growing up, my parents taught me pretty much everything they knew. They used to tell me about their stories of their adventures, and I always wanted to have my own adventure someday. And they supported this and allowed me to strike out on my own when I was old enough. I left on good terms, with the promise that I send them messages and letters every day, and I definitely plan on going back and visiting from time to time. Now, like warlocks and bards, I also use charisma for my magic, so that's going to be my highest score at 18. Whereas, once again, my worst score is strength, this time with 4, which is really one step above the lowest ability score you can get. So, I'm kinda squishy. Now, also, like with the others, I'm aligned with the neutral good alignment. Anyway, I should probably get back to my training, so I'm going to send you over to the next character. Hey, Noah! Ah! Don't startle a guy like that! I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled. I just, I'm just really easily startled. I'm Noah Bordenstride, and I'm an Aasimar druid. What this means is that I get my magic from attuning to nature itself. Now, my story starts out in a secluded druid village, hidden deep, deep in the woods. It was made up of all druids of many different races and creeds and species, all just working and living together in harmony with each other and with nature. I used to play with all the little druid children, and I used to wander through the woods myself. I was wandering the forest that fateful day. I was having some fun when my angelic guide warned me that my village was in danger. I ran as fast as I could until I reached my village. Oh, horror of horrors! The village was completely devastated. The work of a rampaging white dragon. I could only stand and watch as the dragon further destroyed my village. It turned toward me, and I closed my eyes, waiting for my freezing cold demise.
The dragon approached and sniffed at me. Then, for some reason I've yet to understand, the dragon suddenly turned around and trundled off through the woods. The memory of that day still haunts me, and I vowed that day that I would find that dragon and avenge my village. Now, like with the other characters, Tanner has not yet played me, but he does plan on bringing my story full circle by, since white dragons breathe ice instead of fire, making me a circle of wildfire druid once I get to the correct level. Also, as with the others you've met and will meet, I am neutral good. Now, since we druids get our magic through nature, our spellcasting stat, and therefore our highest stat, is wisdom rather than charisma. I am no exception, and my wisdom score after the score increase is 19. But my lowest score is still strength with 13, which still isn't bad since that's a little above average. Anyway, it was nice to meet you, but I'll need to commune with nature since that always helps calm me down. Adam, why don't you come over here and take over while I do?
Huh? Oh, apologize. I didn't see you there. Uh, Greetings. I am Adam Feathervalkyr, and I am an Aasimar wizard. Now, wizards, as mentioned previously by the others you met, get our magic from years and years and years of intense study. Now, my story is similar to Westley and Salomon, except my father was the town wizard who I apprenticed under when I was younger. He makes things like potions and poultices and spells and that kind of stuff to help the others in our little community. Of course, you know the rest. Celestial prophecy, evil tyrant that is bed, destiny to overthrow, yada yada yada. I've been on the run studying magic ever since. Though unlike bards, sorcerers, or warlocks who use charisma for their magic, or druids who use wisdom for their magic, we wizards use our intelligence for our magic. So that's obviously gonna be my highest score. However, in my case, my intelligence is actually tied with wisdom and constitution, all of which are at 16. But of course, my worst score is still strength at 11, which is still slightly above average, just not by a reasonable margin of error. Now, of course, like with my fellow Aasimar characters, I am also of the neutral good alignment. And Tanner's intent, as soon as he plays me, is to specialize as an Order of Scribes wizard. As soon as I get to the appropriate level, that is. Now, of course, we've got to round off this group of characters, and I think I know just the Aasimar for the job. Oh, Caleb, I think someone just insulted Thor. Gotta go.
I'm going to get them! What? Oh, uh, sorry I scared you. I'm Caleb. Caleb Sunfury. Once again, I'm also an Aasimar. However, I am an Aasimar barbarian. Barbarians are essentially a class who channel our primal rage into battle prowess, as well as resistance to piercing, slashing, or bludgeoning damage, among other things. Now, my story begins at a temple of Thor, god of storms and thunder. The priests raised me, telling me that my mother died when I was born, and she only lived long enough to give me a name. I was raised in the temple, and I was taught the rituals and prayers to the thunder god. One night I had a vision in which Thor told me that I was to be a great warrior, One who would channel his power not in magic like the clerics, but in righteous fury like a barbarian. The other priests told me to heed this vision, and trained me in combat, teaching me how to channel my inner rage as power. I left on good terms, with the knowledge that I would be welcomed back to their temple as well as any other temple of Thor, anytime. And I have been traveling the world spreading his word ever since. Now, again, since Tanner has not played me yet, this isn't Battle Caleb. You don't need to rage. I do not have a character level just yet. But the plan is, when he eventually does play me, when I reach the right level, I will take the barbarian path of the zealot. Now, my best score is my constitution at 17, and my worst score is both my wisdom and my dexterity at 10. And of course, like with the other guys, my alignment is neutral good. Anyway, I think it's high time Tanner wrap up here. Tanner! Okay, Caleb. Yeesh! So aggressive. Anyway, and there we have it. That was the first set of D&D characters that I've created, but haven't yet played. If you like this video and you want more, please leave it a like and subscribe down below so you don't miss any new ones. Also, if you have any other ideas for any future videos, please leave your thoughts in the comments down below, and who knows, it might just happen. Alright, well, that's all the time I have for this video, so I'll see you all next week with a brand new one. See you guys then.